Hello, happy Friday. Today is February 9th. This is your reminder again that it is almost Valentine's Day, if you celebrate. And we're doing robot and nonsense stories today.
Valentine's Day is pretty secular,
Yeah.
but I guess some countries probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah, or maybe you just don't care about it. Maybe you just care about the sweet chocolate that goes on sale on February 15th.
Well, one gal that I bet will be getting lots. She will be showered
In
with
Valentine's
Day. What do you do for Valentine's Day when your girlfriend is a multi-millionaire who makes more money than you?
Got to give her a fun experience.
A genuine experience where it's not manufactured, but...
You know what I think she wants? A Super Bowl win.
When is the Super Bowl?
It's this month sometime.
Yeah, I know it's in February, but I don't actually know.
That
Someone who does sports, I'll answer.
That would be a lifetime memorable experience because, like, they win or they lose either way, and it's like you go on the field and there's stuff happening. I mean, that's a once in a lifetime experience.
They get a week off, and then it's the week after the championship. So the championship was last weekend, right? So I think it'll be next weekend. Not for you, for us.
Okay.
Anyway, that's the good news for Taylor Swift. The bad news, as we all learned last week, there were some fake images, and they were quite popular. And so what's being done?
404 has made a bunch of reports and says that Microsoft has closed the loophole that created the unhappiness for Taylor Swift last week. And Microsoft says that, or 404 says that their reporting is why Microsoft was able to close the loophole, which is interesting.
I think Microsoft would have noticed without 404.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from them, but come on. And this is the old question of, was this something that no one could have seen coming? I mean, obviously we knew that people would try to misuse this software, but did we know that there might have been a loophole?
Microsoft AI engineer says company thwarted attempt to expose DALL-E 3 safety problems. Yeah, sometimes when you're the person that's just reporting, like, you don't really understand how this works. They're just like, we don't want to talk to you anymore.
So this fella points out that he repeatedly and doggedly attempted to bring this up to the Microsoft higher-ups, and he was flatly ignored.
Yeah.
Because one thing makes money, and the other makes money not as fast, because you have to deal with ethics.
Unfortunately, I would say that once people learned that this AI was really good at doing that, it might have driven some subscriptions.
And that's all that matters to them.
Yeah. And even if they didn't want to do that kind of thing, they were like, well, that one must be pretty good, right? If it's so realistic, she's mad.
There is an argument that kind of content, not AI generated, but that kind of content drove the acceleration of the adoption of the internet and BBSs and telephone infrastructure for data.
E-commerce.
Yeah. I mean, the VCR, the proliferation of the VCR. I mean, it's like you start peeling back the layers of linoleum there, and it's like, whoa.
I'm going to put this linoleum back.
What if Taylor Swift gets a phone call with Joe Biden? It's like, listen, Taylor.
You're going to have to take one for the team.
We need the GDP to go up, so we're going to have to re-release the nudes. I'm sorry. It's driving numbers.
That would be funny if that's the single thing that saves the North American economy. It's just like, oh. Well, obviously.
Taylor, we're going to do the Super Bowl halftime show is actually going to be a hologram of your fake nudes. We feel like that's going to be the maximum.
We figured out how to do it safely, though. We're going to transmit this holographic banana picture, but when you hold your phone up to it and pipe it into ChatGPT, it reconstructs this really insane thing that's just whatever the viewer wants to see. And it's just like,
Well, we have new language models coming out constantly, and they're trying to one-up each other. And this week, it seems that Meta has scored big.
Meta's free Code Llama AI programming tool closes the gap with GPT-4. This is the one we talked a little bit about this last week and how it has some rough edges. I actually got this up and running on a 48 gig GPU, and it is shockingly good. Not perfect. It's got a lot of problems, but
Speaking of problems.
Well, there were some people in the government who were constantly trying to point out, like, hey, what if this bad thing happened? And obviously OpenAI hadn't considered it before, but they were quick to roll this out.
OpenAI says ChatGPT probably won't make a bioweapon. Probably.
They estimated that it could help a little bit, but not in a really materially effective way. So we shouldn't worry about it.
What about, I mean, I've got the Farnsworth fuser in the basement, so we could actually do like, it's like, okay, let's turn that into, it's like,
Your niche hobby content. You can't let anybody know about that anymore.
yeah, that is bad actually. Like, it's like, oh, you can't just be generating, you can't just do fusion in your basement anymore. That's not allowed. Blah, 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 blah.
Regulations.
Is that an unlicensed nuclear accelerator over there?
And when it comes to OpenAI, they do have that little problem with hallucinating and leaking. It seems to be a little bit more leaky than anybody would want it to be. But they say, no, that's your fault as the user.
OpenAI says the mysterious chat histories resulted from an account takeover, not a security compromise or session stuffing problem. So at first it looked like maybe the ChatGPT session was mangled with some other user's ChatGPT session, but they traced it and they said, nope, turns out somebody just logged in with your account.
From Sri Lanka. The guy still insists that his account would have been secure. They wouldn't have gotten in. I don't know how he would know that. And another big new language model. Unfortunately, this one was not for the public, but someone got an itchy finger.
Mistral CEO confirms leak of new open source AI model nearing GPT performance. This is just general stuff. This is not for coding stuff, but I would believe it. This is not the first Mistral AI bot that's been uploaded to Hugging Face. This one came out a little early, but even Intel, like the official Intel Hugging Face repo on Hugging Face, has some fine-tuned models based on Mistral, and they're very, very good, shockingly good.
And Google, once again, a little behind the curve, really not keeping up with the state of the art when it comes to AI.
The Verge's headline was Bard now generates photos finally. So I uploaded a picture of a person on horseback, and it was a silhouette, and it was like, I can't help with pictures of people. And it was literally just a silhouette. And it's like, and I was like, this is a silhouette. You can't, this is not a thing. And Bard was just like, no.
Well, that's hot off the tailored controversy. They're probably really worried about that. And Google is also stuffing AI into some parts of their services that you wouldn't really expect it to be useful in.
Google Maps is getting supercharged with generative AI, helping people find new things, just like their GPS sends them off cliffs.
So they point out, ask for hipster coffee shops. And
That's all of them, based on our other story a week or two ago.
They'll take you through a tour of hipster coffee shops, wherever it is you want to go. Probably only slightly weight the ones that pay for Google ads above the other ones, right?
Only slightly. Definitely not delisting everybody else.
And GitHub has been they've been crunching some numbers based on how long we've been using AI to write our code. They found some conclusions.
New GitHub Copilot research finds downward pressure on code quality. Oh, really? Big surprise there.
They said it's very repetitive. Tends to solve the same problem over and over rather than just using a function to call it. And wouldn't you know, one of the most controversial AIs of January turned out to be a fake.
Following lawsuit, rep admits AI George Carlin was human written. That's probably the best result for the lawsuit.
Yeah,
They're still using his name and likeness.
Yeah,
though.
you just took your dumb garbage thoughts and put a brilliant man's name on it. That should also be, and it is, a copyright claim. And Apple may be even further behind Google in the AI race, but they're trying to get there. However, they must use the tools of their enemies.
Apple continues to work on AI-powered Siri and Messages features with help from ChatGPT.
Now, they say there will be no ChatGPT in the Apple version. They're just using it to test against their version. See if it's doing as well.
Do you think that they look at that and they're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
They put on their Vision Pro headset so they can pretend it's not there.
Load shower sequence. And then crying shower.
And we mentioned last week that the Nightshade tool was released and that everybody should go get it. A lot of people did.
AI poisoning tool Nightshade received 250,000 downloads in 5 days, quote unquote, beyond anything we imagined. Yeah, it turns out that people are paying attention and they sort of understand.
Oh my God. I'm just going to accept it. I don't want to, but I'm going to. And when it comes to, the magic thumbnails, oh God, I hate the clickbait thumbnails, but they work statistically, I guess. And more AI is figuring out ways to do just some little tiny tweaks to make you more attractive in your thumbnails.
Photoshop owner rejects TV channel's claim that AI is to blame for doctoring female MP's image to be more revealing.
We just did that ourselves.
That's the argument, right? Someone was like, oh, the AI did that. So, of course, she got a little bit bigger chest going on over here, and then she got the sexy midriff instead of over here where it's just the dress.
It's funny because I think she looks better in the normal photo, the non-doctored one.
Should have covered up her arms.
There was a similar controversy. This is ancient history, but it made me think of it, where Keira Knightley did a movie poster for like a King Arthur movie, and she was like an archer in that movie, and they, in the poster for it, they like gave her a bust, and she was like, she put a big thing out that was like, I don't have boobs like that. She's like, I'm like an A cup. Why did you shop that way?
I think we know why.
Yeah.
And the robot delivery robots are out there, and they are blocking traffic, maybe in some cases, definitely delivering foods to us that are harming us, but for the first time ever, also vandalizing.
Food delivery robot crashes into car and flees the scene of an accident. So it apparently slid off a snow-covered sidewalk or something and was trying to free itself, but it just kept banging into the same place in someone's door over and over again and scratched the crap out of it.
The person who was filming it eventually went in and manually rescued it, and then it escaped the scene to go on with its delivery before the cops could show up.
It left the scene of the crime.
What a hellish insurance claim to try to make.
No, though, there was a robot hitting it over and over. Sir, do you have a caretaker or someone you could speak to?
And it is not going to be a good year, I think, for this company, because they have now learned what they have to do to gain the trust of the regulators back, and it's going to be a hard row.
GM's Cruise faces a long road back to city streets in the wake of its safety review. Man, this thing reads like there's a story, I think it's in Ohio. Like there were only 2 motor vehicles registered in Ohio, and both of them were in the same accident. Like there was a motor vehicle accident in Ohio with the only 2 registered motor vehicles in Ohio. That's what this reads like. It's just like, oh, it turns out we should make motor vehicles safe. It's like, okay.
Are you talking about in the early days?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so it's just like, okay, we need
No,
all this.
last year. That's just the hellscape that Ohio is.
We need all these safety regulations and all this safety stuff. And it's like, there's 2 cars in Ohio. Come on.
Well, you know what? We've another industry that's facing that. There's going to be 2 cars in the Earth's orbit.
SpaceX's Starship to launch Starlab, a private space station in the late 2020s.
It's going to go up.
Have you seen the Andromeda train?
It's much smaller, but still fairly large, I think.
I'm pretty sure that Starlab was a thing in the 80s too. But, like when the International Space Station was just getting going, it's like, oh, it was Starlab, blah, blah, blah.
Well, one overachiever that's now among the stars is this guy. Everybody wrote him off, but he powered through. He's back.
Japan's Slim moonlander has overcome its power crisis to start scientific operations. Okay.
Just hoovering up those dust and rocks.
He tumbled down a cliff, which is what started all this. So I don't know how long it's going to take him to get out of the crater, but he's got power. Good luck.
What a good day. You come into the office and it's like, oh, he's back up. He's back up.
Now, last week we talked about the horrific swatting, well, not swatting, but an actual SWAT team that just got the wrong address and flashbanged a baby. Well, that's not the worst thing that they do, but one thing is always constant. No one pays any penalty.
New Mexico officers won't face charges in fatal shooting at wrong address. Fatal shooting at wrong address.
Guy answered the door with a gun because he wasn't expecting anybody to come to his door. As soon as they saw it, they killed him. His wife started to come down the stairs, and they tried to kill her, but they missed 19 times.
It's just...
And when it comes to law enforcement, they're eager to arrest you, and they will spare no force. They will take any risk as long as it's to you and not them. But once you get arrested, they really just turn you right back out. They charge you some court fees, and they cycle you through over and over.
Las Vegas driver with 19 tickets who killed a bicyclist could get probation.
There's a similar story in Lexington.
Yeah.
A cyclist got hit and killed, and they won't release the name of the person who did it.
Well, they released this fella's name, and people looked into it, and he had an insane history of driving without a license, driving without insurance, blah, 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 just over and over and over. When do you suspend that license? I guess it doesn't matter, right? Because they'll drive without it. And they just never take it seriously. And this is from 8 News Now in Las Vegas. And amazingly, 8 News Now, that was not the only crazy story exactly like this they had this week.
Man who previously killed 3 in a DUI crash arrested again at 4 times the legal limit.
Now, you kill 3 in a DUI. Shouldn't that just be you never drive again?
Yeah.
And yet, it's insane. Terrifying to be on those roads. Also terrifying to be a young man discovering yourself when you're on a restrictive data plan. Someone should sue the phone company, right?
Mother jailed for 3 years for splashing boiling water on their son because of what they were watching on their phone.
But it sounds like she was more upset about him using up all the data than the action itself.
You know, instead of just having a discussion with your child, you just pour boiling water on them. Apparently that
solves everything. She told the judge that she should be given a leniency because of her 5 other children she will presumably also pour boiling water on if they cross it. And Taylor Swift is just a force of nature. She can move heaven and earth and Australian bureaucracy.
Brisbane School is changing its exam times so year 12 students, those are seniors, I guess, can attend a Taylor Swift concert. That sounds I'm not even mad. That sounds amazing.
How crazy is that though, where it's like, here's an exam that I don't know what those exams are like there. I assume it'd be like taking the ACT or the SAT here.
So, yeah.
And like, that's something that can determine your future depending on what school and stuff you go to. And it's like, well, I do that or I go to the Taylor Swift concert.
How many more times is Taylor Swift going to tour the world?
How many times can I take the ACT? Unlimited. As long as you're willing to pay.
And I've had a pretty good track record. I think for like 4 weeks in a row, I've managed to find a poop story.
Yeah, we've had a whole defecation section in the links.
Only one this week.
The headline is Sky Poop Complaints Have North Tonawanda Residents Seeking Answers.
It's poop soup.
So is this New York? I thought this was another country.
Yeah. North Tonawanda. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
But,
this has got to be somebody who thinks they're doing yard work and they're just shoveling things into the chipper shredder and it's just spraying stuff into the air because it's just like, where is this coming from?
No, her assumption was it's an airplane dropping there.
Are they? It looks like they're kind of purple. Let's play birds. There's a moment, like a few weeks in the summer, where all our blackberries will be producing, and then all of a sudden our cars and our driveway and everywhere is just covered in purple poop.
It's happened 3 times.
It is weird that it's right now when it's winter, so it's probably not birds. Unless one of her neighbors is putting berries out. As like, instead of putting seeds in the feeders, they put berries. It'd be expensive.
Or it's the neighbor's poop, but then you would have to have some method of launching.
Of flinging it, yeah. Maybe they have a trebuchet.
Well, you got to monitor your kids. Even when you take them to fun locations where it might be like an arcade or someone, you send them off, put them in a machine so you can have some time to yourself. You can't take your eyes off of them.
Long arm of the law. Police rescue a Queensland toddler stuck in a Hello Kitty prize machine.
You didn't even do the pun.
The long arm of the law? Of the claw.
The claw. The claw.
It's because I misread it. I was going to say this is an attempt at making fun of the fact that the toddler crawled into a claw machine through the prize door.
So she says this kid loves stuffed animals. And my favorite part...
What a joyous place for him to be.
Yeah, my favorite part was where she described his just absolute elation once he got in there.
Aww.
Even though the door closed behind him and, like the way they opened, he couldn't get out. He didn't care. He was just celebrating with they had to smash the glass.
Wow.
They one of the stories linked from this story, at least when I looked at it, was about children who stack cans, apparently being autistic.
Oh.
And that's that's a Wikipedia thing. Like if you go look, there's a picture of a toddler stacking cans up, and it was like.
You ever read those articles and then have that moment of, oh.
Yeah.
Well, one thing about last year is we had a lot of misbehavior in the Capitol buildings. And the craziest one was the filming of some adult content. Remember that one? That guy just got off with no charges, like today or yesterday.
Well, that's probably good for him. Probably scared him to death.
I don't think so. He posted it on social media. But this one was not quite as bad. However, it is being held under a magnifying glass.
GOP congressman admits to doing pull-ups at the top of the Capitol dome and insists there was nothing unsafe. I read this, and it did sound a bit like a nothing burger. They also complained that this guy skateboards through the hallway a lot.
He is...
Kind of don't care about that.
He's an ER doctor and a Marine.
Yeah.
This guy's like the perfect politician.
Yeah.
And he can do a pull-up.
And apparently can ride a skateboard, which I can't do.
How many Congress people do you think can do a solid pull-up?
Like that guy.
Yeah. If you asked me to do a pull-up right now, I'd probably struggle.
Well, you got to be careful when you are taking out your trash. I don't know exactly how you fall into a dumpster when taking out your trash, but this lady did, and it ended up pretty bad.
Woman tossing trash into the thing was picked up by a dumpster, or fell into a dumpster and was picked up by a garbage truck, and she was crushed at least 4 times.
Ugh.
And she went to the hospital, and she survived. And she's apparently basically okay.
Probably pretty bruised.
It doesn't really say.
I guess it would depend on the consistency of the trash that is immediately adjacent to you.
Yeah.
If it's just like soft food and like stuff like that, you'd probably be all right. Although breathing had.
They heard her. They fished her out and took her to the hospital.
Imagine hearing that from the front of the truck. Like you got your radio on and you're just driving and then you hear, ah!
Hopefully happily ever after.
We have a, you know what? I missorted this.
Oh.
Yeah, let's just do a quick, we'll do this one first.
If you're falling down in the one tab.
Oh, wait, no. I didn't do it wrong. Never mind. I'm sorry. Yeah. A triumvirate of high school bathroom stories this week, which is interesting because remember we
were just talking about that last week. Or wait, were we talking about it on the podcast or were we talking about it?
No, it was on the podcast.
Oh, okay. We have a podcast.
And we were talking about the weird things they did because of smoking when we were in high school. And apparently it's only escalated over the years.
Mom banned from dropping kids off at Christian school due to OnlyFans ad on her car.
I mean, you can see the ad back there.
Look, she's got it on her T-shirt too.
That's
Come
hilarious.
on.
It's only text, but at the same time, all those kids have a phone in their pocket, and I'd be like, "Oh, let me see what this is about."
It is extremely tacky.
Yeah,
The
and
bad taste isn't against the law.
they offered her the solution. They told her either park off the property, and that means her kids have to cross a busy street, which is dangerous. So either park off the property or cover it up or remove it. And she was like, no, I don't think I'll be doing that. I make a lot of money from that.
Yeah, this move is only going to make her even more money because how many people are just going to go?
And that's why
subscribe to
she's
this?
wearing that T-shirt for her interview on the news.
She's going to get a huge influx of subscribers.
Oh.
But once those kids are inside the school, their worries are not over because now the surveillance state is prepping them young.
Houston County schools to install bathroom cameras. Parents express concerns to school system. You know, when these people are adults and they're like, the state has come to install cameras in your stuff and we're going to listen to your microphone all the time. They're going to be like, sounds good.
Yeah, I'm used to that. I mean, think about when you go, like, talk about that last week. You go to Lowe's and the camera's looking right at you the whole time.
But how about the conflict here? It's like, listen, kids, some things don't belong on camera, like your mom's sex life. By the way, there's cameras in the bathroom. And that's not the only one this week.
Green Bay high school students voice concerns about glass bathroom door. The principal says it's to stop vaping and vandalism.
And then I skipped.
Why can't we just do what we did before, which is having a
smoking section outside?
Or, like a teacher that's just monitoring things, like from
Yeah, it was
far
kind
away.
of a vibe killer to have the teacher standing right at the doorway of the bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, if you're wondering why we have to take these dramatic steps, maybe this is a good indicator because it turns out that some people aren't ready to move into the new world, and their answer is violence.
Brookfield High School tampon dispenser destroyed 20 minutes after installation in boys' bathroom.
Is as much of a discussion as we can have about that story.
I'm just amazed that there were tampons in it.
Well,
There
it's
were
brand
never
new.
there were never in any in ours. Like you just had to, you could put a quarter in, nothing would come out.
They made you pay a quarter?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. You didn't want to get caught without that.
With inflation, they're probably, what, 75 cents at this
Yeah,
point?
girl code was like if someone in your class, even if you didn't like her, was like, "I need a tampon," like you gave her one, no matter what, even if it was your mortal enemy.
Wow. Be fun to test that, right? Like, how far can you push somebody before they deny you?
I never saw it.
That was a fun subplot in House, where House was just messing with Wilson, and it's like, no, you made it up to like $5,000. That's
Oh
your-
yeah, he was trying to get him. He kept having him loan more and more money.
Well, this is another thing that a lot of people would say, that maybe your kids they shouldn't be introduced to this lifestyle, but they back it up. And I got to say, after reading the story, I'm kind of on the side of the people doing this.
Yeah. Viral, quote unquote, mommy and me pole fitness class are not what you may think. And you read it and it's like, this is reasonable. I think this is designed to, like, if this was designed to provoke outrage in order to have you read something wholesome, great. It's awesome. You should.
So there is no stripping here, and they don't claim to have anything to do with that. It is just that, like, yeah, balancing yourself like that on a pole is physical fitness.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite impressive, and they claim that it's fun, and the kids like it. So
So why
I mean,
not?
it is kind of like you see those same sort of poles at, like they could just call it a fire pole out on like playgrounds and stuff, and kids climb up and down those.
Like kind of like a jungle gym.
Yeah.
There's another one where they're going to get a lot of mileage out of these headlines. It's going to be good for them ultimately. Now, we covered this one in the past, and a lot of people, the big criticism of these is that they will almost immediately make you want to poop. But maybe that's not a bad thing.
Weight loss. Starbucks is launching its olive oil infused beverages nationwide.
Isn't that true of just coffee in general, though? I guess it must be worse with olive
But with the
oil.
oil in there, it really...
Olito.
Do you think they have those here? I should try one before the stream, and I can confirm.
You should go get one, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, like, most people are trying to cut calories, right? And there's no more concentrated calories than just oil.
Yeah.
Small amounts of oil.
That's actually one of the most calorie-dense things you can do on trail. Like, a lot of people will take a little squeeze bottle in their pack, and then every food that they make, they put olive oil on it just to get calories in.
And plus, when you mix that fat with the sugar that's going to be in your creams and your coffee, or your sugar for the coffee, it's bad news. Delicious, I'm sure.
Or maybe it's better than artificial sugars.
Well, you're not going to do it, like, it doesn't replace sugar. It doesn't
No.
taste sweet.
I wonder what it's like. That's what I wonder. What's it there for? Because it doesn't really add a lot of flavor. But
It's there to generate profits for Starbucks. Look how horrible this is. Oh. But we see more and more of society collapsing, and when you are just out doing your normal everyday things, you got to worry about some insane person killing you.
Argument over missing food from McDonald's order led to woman's shooting and death, warrants say. This is disturbing. This is genuinely disturbing.
Also, the victim here, the dead woman, was not the McDonald's employee. She was a friend of the McDonald's employee who got involved in the altercation.
Big oops.
I don't think it was an oops. I think it was on purpose. Oh, you mean an oops for her to get involved?
Yeah.
And one part of the population that doesn't get any representation and gets treated pretty nastily and exploited in ways that we wouldn't tolerate for any other demographic are the prisoners.
Prisoners in the U.S. are part of a hidden workforce linked to hundreds of popular food brands. This isn't something we talk a lot about on the news, but like if you want to start peeling back the linoleum on this, this is way more extensive even than the food industry, like manufacturing paint and some kinds of furniture here in America. A lot of the incarcerated population is very low wage labor, and this is like you look into this and
like
it's
the wage is like 36 cents a day or something crazy.
yeah, it's like ooh, this isn't good.
The outrage that we apply to like a Vietnamese sweatshop is absolutely true for the prisons, and no one cares.
Yeah.
So they point out that these guys are raising cattle, and several of them have heat strokes, and like it literally sounds like old school plantations where a guy on a horse will come and beat you if you don't work hard enough or if you throw away your tools. And they track that cattle, and sure enough, it's going to like McDonald's and all the big fast food people. So you're eating prison labor.
Yeah. This story just focuses on food, but there's a lot
It's
more than
everywhere.
just food.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not great.
And everybody's trying to figure out what to do for Valentine's Day. How do you use the holiday to call attention to your business, this is an interesting one.
This is amazing. New Jersey, is it? Their animal shelter will name a feral cat after an ex and then neuter it in their some
Wow.
things shouldn't breed, quote unquote, drive. But you gotta give them a donation. So
Now, they will not name it the full name because that would be wrong. Just the first name or a nickname.
that's amazing.
Yeah, good for them.
I mean, what kind of person doesn't rename their pet after they adopt them anyway?
We renamed Cricket, but we didn't rename Rue because Rue already answered to her name.
She'd learn a new one. She's smart.
Ish.
We covered this story a while back. It's been 8 long months that this poor bird has been suffering.
A pigeon suspected to be a Chinese spy released after 8 months, according to Mumbai.
He's going to have a wild story to tell the other pigeons.
So he had these 2 little rings around his leg, and they pulled them off. They saw what they were described as Chinese-like writing. Turns out that he was a racing pigeon from Taiwan.
Wow.
And those just identified him for the pigeon race. He got off course and did 8 hard months
Wow.
because they thought he was a spy.
Oops.
He's like, I'm from Taiwan. I'm not from China.
And if you live in a place where there might be a park, like a wildlife refuge or something like that, you got to worry about the animals getting out. And they can affect you in ways you don't imagine.
Missing monkey trapped by Yorkshire pudding in Scotland. Yorkshire pudding is apparently a snack. Didn't know that.
I have a lot of puddings. in
It's
that
not,
world.
but it's not pudding as we think of it.
Yeah.
It's a solid.
Mm.
It's an interesting history of the puddings in that part of the world. The Christmas puddings. I watched a documentary on the Christmas puddings one time. This was mostly just a video, but it's a fun video, and we have to ask ourselves, why is the sea life becoming so violent?
Did that octopus just punch a fish? The answer is yes. But scientists, it was probably annoyed. It's fine.
Yeah, this isn't like one's in captivity either. This is in the wild. And he's just reaching out to punch a fish every now and then.
It do be like that sometimes.
Get these tentacles. But that's not the only animal that's angry in the seas and lashing out.
The Newsweek headline is Dolphins are trying to kill baby manatees, and scientists don't know why.
Probably because dolphins are just kind of mean.
If the article talks about it, it's like, well, maybe they're trying to play with them, but don't realize that they're harming them. We don't know.
It's only the orphan manatees. If the manatee has a mother around, they don't mess with them.
Well,
They don't want those hands.
It says that some that they do, but if there's a pod there or a family, that they generally won't.
They only harass single-parent households.
Yeah. And mostly the orphans.
That makes it worse.
They
Not
do
better.
they do compete for food, but are they really that forward thinking?
Well, they don't eat them.
Dolphins are pretty intelligent.
So.
They're
No,
also
but
like
the manatees eat the same thing the dolphins eat.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
And we had some escaped raccoons. What do you do if you lose all your raccoons? This was someone who broke into a park and released them. An intruder. Like, why would you do that?
Escapee raccoons tempted back by hot dogs. It's like, okay, they let you go, but remember how nice it was here? Remember, it was nice. You want some hot dogs? Here, have some hot dogs.
That's us trying to get Cricket back in the house when he got out.
You've probably been eating trash for the last 2 or 3 days. The hot dogs are really going to hit the spot. You think they do all beef, or do they do the ones that are just innards?
Probably just innards. You don't want to spend a lot of money on hot dogs for raccoons.
This was definitely my favorite picture of the week. I love the expression on this guy's face.
Oh dear, Muntwak?
Munchak?
This deer was wedged upside down between 2 houses that were built entirely too close together.
That's not a fire barrier.
What is going on? He's thinking right now, is like, I'm pretty sure they're going to kill me, but it's taking them a long time.
They got it out, but it was a challenge.
Ooh. What a terrible place to get stuck. That's like nightmare fuel for me. I'm not even that claustrophobic, but I don't like that.
You can't even really wiggle. And
Yeah.
you're stuck. Every time you breathe, it's restricted.
Oh, what's the short story that people post on the internet all the time? It's a comic. That hole, it's made for me. And then like he goes through the hole and then slowly gets.
It's the Japanese word for spiral. That's
Yeah.
the name of it.
It was also trapped upside down, in case that wasn't clear. Like, how did this even happen, dear?
He took
It's his hole. It's made for him.
It took a leap of faith, and it didn't work out for him.
They were able to rescue it, and now it's the most popular deer on the internet.
This week.
He made it out. He made it to the other side of the spiral, and he wasn't
Fun
jelly.
times. And you've made it to the other side of another week of broadcasts. store.level1tax.com
Yeah.
and or patreon.com/level1tax.
Float plane, whichever place you want to visit us. We're also on Twitch.
I don't know.
Go see us there.